Ta-da.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us for part 2 of this incredible series. That's really a part of our Link and Learn series, where we get to hear from Jamie Coco again of Empowered Social Media. And this is the last of our Connect campaign Link and Learns, I believe. And we just can't thank each of you enough for being here. And of course, we always have to give a shout out to our series sponsor, Florence Bank, for making these programs possible and for their support in uplifting our business community. And I am Vince Jackson, the Executive Director of the Greater Northampton Chamber of Commerce, and we're happy to have you. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Jen Ewers, who is the Connect campaign co-chair. And then Jen, you call on the next person to introduce themselves.
Hi there, my name is Jen Ewers. I'm an insurance broker at Fink & Paris here in Florence, and I am co-chairing the current member drive with Chris Gallivan. So thank you for attending. This has been a great series. I hope you're all getting a lot out of it. And I will kick this over to Julie.
Hi, just doing introductions again. Hi, I'm Julie Heckscher. I live up in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and I am in the process of launching a business called Pocket Full of Joy, and that is a sole proprietorship where I will be helping people locally sort through their items in the Marie Kondo KonMari method, and decide to keep help them decide which items they want to be surrounded by in their current and future life.
Why don't we go to Elena next?
So I run Be Strategic Communications, and it's a communications and web strategy company. And one of the things that I've recently been specializing in is Squarespace websites.
I'm Jess Thompson. I'm the Director of Investor and Community Relations at the Greater Northampton Chamber of Commerce. We'll kick it over to Jack.
Hi, everyone. You might hear my echo from Jess's
I'm going to
computer.
mute myself.
I'm the Marketing Communications Manager here at the Chamber, and this is like the one that I've been waiting for. So I'm in.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So that leaves me, right?
Yep, you and Vince.
Oh, Vince, you go then. And then we got Don coming in.
I'm done, so I introduced myself already.
Okay.
So we want to wait for Don. Let Don introduce herself.
Hello.
Hey, Don.
Sorry, guys, I had an awful time getting on. Thank you for sending the link, Jessica.
Sure.
So we just did a quick round of introductions. You just came in right at the end. So can you introduce yourself to everybody in here?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Dawn Creighton. I just recently started at Mass Hire Holyoke as the Workforce Development Specialist under a 6-month contract. So it's been pretty exciting. I'm helping out with some of the social media. So I need to up my game from doing a bunch of cute little selfies at events to actually doing something that's a little more professional. So I'm so glad I was able to sneak in.
Awesome. Nice to see you, Don.
Nice to
All right,
see you.
Amy, it's all you.
Awesome. So, and I have sharing privileges. Is that correct? So while she's doing that, I'm Jamie Coco. I'm the owner of Empowered Social Media. I've been doing marketing for over 10 years. I love talking marketing. And like whenever I find somebody, like it doesn't matter, like if like a restaurant or bar or out with friends and someone is like a marketer, like I'll just talk for hours about it. So I love these opportunities to talk and also to help give you some good information that you can use and leverage for your own businesses. So my style is you can totally interrupt me. You can raise your hand. You can drop comments in. I'm not the person who's like nothing until the very end. I like to have that feedback. I might call on you to ask you some questions and stuff and to figure out ways that we can apply some of the materials more directly that we're going through today. And here, all right, so let me share my screen. Y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about the most engaging content types. We're going to discuss some quick and impactful photo editing strategies and then graphic design tips. So the first one in the series talked about content strategy. What ways that you can create content using a funnel method of brand awareness, engagement, and conversion to work people closer to that bottom of the funnel and to get more sales over time. So this is now the making our content impactful, leveraging social media algorithms, and also when you do have content that pops up, how do we have them stop in their tracks and engage with your content instead of scrolling right past it? So we're gonna get into all of that today. All right, so engaging creative types. So if you haven't done this, how many people in here have done live videos on any of social media platforms? Jennifer said yes. Ben said yes. You have, Julie? It looked like you had.
Sorry, yeah, in my former work I did, yes.
All right, it looked like a reluctant yes. You're like, yes, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to.
I haven't done it personally, but I've done it on behalf of the program.
Okay, well, great. So we got some people on here who've done lives and others who have not done lives. Now, the algorithms for social media platforms love lives. They love it, and we'll actually talk about the next two content types as well, because they drive into being more authentic. So like, all right, I could create I could do a video, I could record it, and now I can do all this editing to it. So now it becomes like less like actually talking and having a conversation, and it becomes like really professional type video content. When we get to this level of like, it pulls away from personal, it pulls away from authentic, and it gets too much into the overly professional type of content, that type of content does not perform well on social media. Now, professionally done content that is longer form content can definitely do well when we're looking at platforms like YouTube or on websites. But in general, the more authentic content, less produced content performs better on social media. So that's why algorithms like live video content, is because it's more authentic content. And overall, it's going to help us increase our reach, how many people it gets to, our engagement, how many people interact with our content, and our opportunities for conversion. So one thing to know is that whether right now you're already planning on like, all right, I'm going to do some live videos in the future, or you're like, I hate live videos, I don't want to do them ever again. Or maybe you're in the middle, you're like, Jamie convinced me on why I need to do live videos, because it's not something I'm really super comfortable with at this point. It's good to know that if you do lives, nobody expects you to be perfect on it. And actually, like little mistakes, like a mix up of words, or going to the wrong slide and then coming back, like those things create this opportunity where we are human. And that might be something that's like, oh yeah, well, we are human. That may not be like, well, why would you even say that? Well, the purpose is, again, when we're thinking about making purchases, whether it's product or services, we need a certain level of connection. We need to know, we need to like, and we need to trust something before we're going to purchase from it. Now if it's like $1.99 item, we don't need to have a huge amount of know, like, and trust. But if it's a $500 package or $1,000 package, or it's something really important for somebody, like insurance for their house, that they're going to need to have that personal connection, and they're going to need to have that trust factor. And so when we eliminate the opportunities for us to be shown as a human being, for them to connect with, they can't do it. And they can't get to that place where they can trust us. So again, back to how this relates to video is that nobody expects you to be perfect. So take the pressure off yourself when you're doing video in the future. Another thing that's important to know, and I'm going to say this specifically for Facebook, although it does apply to other platforms, is most of the views come off of, they come off of the replay. So what does that mean? It's like, maybe you've done a live before. You're like, what? Like one person showed up to my live, or like nobody showed up to my live. You're like, I'm done. Like, this is worthless. Why would I do it again if I had really low participation in my live? Well, you will get a majority of the views on that video off the replay. So the replay is somebody watching it when it's not in that live time. Because once you've finished a live, you can publish it to your page. So again, if you have a regular post, an image, you have a video, or you have a live video and publishing it, social media algorithms are trying to figure out what's engaging content, what type of content is going to create the best user experience possible. So, quick side note on if you didn't attend the last session is that social media platforms want to have the best user experience possible because they want to have more people on their platform for longer periods of time. And the reason they want this, we wish that the reason they want this is they wanted to make the world a better place. But the real reason they want this is they have more opportunity to serve ads to people and make more money off of it. So they're looking at the best experience, and they have determined that live videos create better user experiences than other types of content. So again, you might do a live and then one person or two people or four people show up and you're like, that doesn't feel worth my time. But then you get 100 or 200 additional views off of it because it is determined as highly engaging content, and Facebook pushes it out to more people than your regular content. So live is really important. Here's some best practices now. If you're like, all right, okay, Jamie, you got me, you've converted me. I'm not gonna love doing it, but I'm gonna do it. How do I do it well? So it's important for us to let people know that it is coming up. You know, if we go like live the same day, no one has any notice of it, it's really not going to be able to maximize our audience and viewership at the actual event. And it might be a scenario where it's like just you talking to you or pretending to talk to other people, which again, like sometimes that might happen and you're still going to get stuff off of a replay. But if anyone in here is presented, if you're presenting to nobody or just one person, it's really difficult to do that when you're presenting it as like group information and you're trying to do it to one person. It's difficult. So get that information out there ahead of time, whether that's a month out saying, all right, we're going to go live on this date, or you have a live segment once a month that you do, or once a week that you do. Weaving lives into your content strategy is going to be really important. Keep it simple. And then also remind people why to stay to the end of it. So you might have like anybody who stays to the end of it, I'm going to give you a special link where you get this bonus so that people aren't like, all right, I'm just going to show up for the first 15 minutes just to like say I did it, or I'm just going to get on the replay anyways. Like give them something where you're going to actually verbally, or you can give them a code to do it, whatever it is that you're doing in the execution of that. You can drop a comment and then you can delete that comment when you publish it for people. Give them a reason to stay to the end of it. Another thing that's important is that I'm not going to say this in general, but for live content, it's going to be longer form content. And longer form content may not sound like 3 minutes to you, but in the world we live, where people have really short attention spans, 3 minutes or more is long form content these days. Traditionally, it's short form content that we're using to engage people on social media. One of the things that came up in the Lincoln Learn, was it a Lincoln Learn that we did before, Elena, or was it, what was that? It was like
It was
just,
I think it was a Lincoln Learn. It was a panel with about social media strategy.
yeah. So one of the other, Blair, I believe, he brought up this concept, snackable content, where like we can get in this place where like, all right, you know, we got to say this message to somebody and we're going to blast like the 12 different reasons all in this one post of why you should do this thing. And like, you get to a place where no one's going to read all of it. If they do, they're going to get overwhelmed on it. They're not going to feel like they have too much to take action now. Or we really have to break things down in these really small chunks to educate people over time for our content. So this is the thing that stands out, that's different, is live content has to be longer because the algorithm is also notifying people as you're doing your live. So if you think about it, like if you post a regular post, unless you mention someone in it, it's not gonna ding them a notification saying, all right, Jennifer posted on her page. It's not gonna say that. But if you go live and someone's connected to your page and you log in, it's gonna say, oh, this business is live, or this business just went live. So there's things that are happening again that you're not gonna get with other content types out there. And then it's important in here when you're doing your live is to even set up what you want to be the description ahead of time. I think a lot of people like go into it and they're like, I'm just going to do live. And then they actually go into the live and like, oh, I didn't even think about like, what's my title for this live going to be? And what's my description when they actually go live? Because you're going to have to type those things in manually, unless you do it as a live event through Facebook. And then think about that. What's the next step they're going to take? Because you want to put that link inside the description of the live or in a comment of that live. So announcing 2 to 4 weeks before the event's coming up. And then you could even do a short live to showcase and talk about a live coming up. So maybe you do, maybe it's not 3 minutes, but you do like a 60-second live to say like, all right, next week we're going live and we're going to get into all of these Q&As, or we're going to dive into this topic. You could do a live as like a prep for a future live. So you can kind of get your feet wet on it, because a lot of people, again, are terrified. It's like live is in that like public speaking territory where people are like, it's like some stat is like 75 people would prefer to die rather than do public speaking. It's something ridiculous, where I'm sure that live video is probably up there as well for a lot of people. So again, tease alive, we're saying ahead of time, 2 to 4 weeks, and to have 2 to 3 posts ahead of time to let people that know that live is coming is going to be important. I'm going to move on because you're going to get this slide deck anyways in here. What's going to be important for lives is to create an outline for this. So a lot of people, there's 2 different ways that I've seen people create outlines in general. One of those ways is to have bullet points, where the suggestion is if you're doing something and you're on a topic, first you stick to one topic. And second, you can do 3 different bits of information that expand on that topic. And then this, like, it's a rule of 3s. So then you can then have 3 details about one of those supporting segments of information for that topic. So it's a rule of 3s when you're creating stuff. But some people will create bullet points. What, if necessary to do, which some people do, is they write everything out, they type it all out, and then they like reading from a script. That typically doesn't perform well. It's not fantastic. It's better to do something like your bullet points where like it gives you a roadmap so you stay on track of things, but you're the one who's going to create that information and have, so it's more conversational. It's more going with the flow as opposed to like reading exactly from the script. That's important. So people will do bullet points. Other people will do like, they'll go into like PowerPoint and create these like storyboards of like, all right, you know, in this part of it, I'm going to do this, and that part, I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do for this. So I've seen either of those strategies work. So outline, what is, let me just open these all up. What is it that you are trying to solve? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the outcome that they're going to get by watching your live video? These are really important things, because if we don't have something that we're trying to solve for somebody, why would they want to watch it? If you can't clearly state what the outcome is when they're done with watching the video, why would they want to watch it? So those are really important things for us. So another thing is to keep it simple. We outlined this in last week, not last week, but last session, and how we have these different content areas. We have a brand awareness content area. That includes content like your mission, your vision, your purpose, your core values. Those are things that help people get to know who you are and create brand awareness. Then we have things in the engagement like milestones, like we just like 5-year anniversary of this, or just started this new venture, or we just launched this new product or service. That's milestone type content. Or we have conversion type content, which is the outcomes based content. What do they get out of it? Or it's even the objection handling content. Like somebody says, well, I don't have enough time in my life for your product or service. I don't have enough money for your product or service, or I could just get your product or service from a competitor. Why would I get it from you? So it's important for us when we're creating content in general, and then also with video content, is we stick in one lane for it. A lot of times people will start off with like, all right, here's like, this is our history. This is getting to know us. And then it's like, oh, and then we had this milestone. This came up. Oh, and then you should choose us over the competition because of this. And then it gets like to be like, it's not really cohesive. It's all over the place. It's trying to catch everybody. And I think we know that analogy too. If you aim to get everybody, you end up getting nobody because you're being too broad with things. So we stick to one thing. Maybe we do a live video just to talk about who we are, or we do a live video to talk about the things that we're doing in the community, or we have a live video to discuss the new product or service that we're launching, or we have a live video to even talk about a client experience or how to use our product or service. So those are different things that, again, we want to focus on one thing and make it clear and simple for someone instead of going all around these different areas where no one can figure out, okay, what am I supposed to be getting out of this? You threw too much at me. So optimal length, 3 or longer, and I explained in there why. Publish it when it's ended. For the replay, call to action. So yeah, the next thing in here is stories. Stories are really important. One of the platforms that, well, so we have Facebook stories. And well, before I get into Facebook stories, just to show you the power of stories and why it's important to use stories. For a platform like Instagram, they're finding that now people are interacting more with stories than newsfeed content. So the people are going in, and the first place for a majority of people who are now using Instagram is they go to stories first. And once they've cycled through their stories, then they may go into newsfeed and see newsfeed content. So the way people are interacting with social media, we know is always changing, but one of the ways it's changing is people are engaging more with stories. Why are they engaging with stories? The same thing. It's more authentic content. It's like these what's happening right now, where you might have like a post that you're putting out, that you're scheduling, that might be something that's like, yes, it's happening as a business currently, but it could have been something that happened yesterday or something that's coming up tomorrow, where stories are like the in-between of those posts and what's happening right now inside your business. So stories are becoming bigger. And what happens with stories is that there are some tools inside of stories that you can use to gain new followers, people who haven't seen your content before. But the purpose of stories, the major purpose of stories is to engage your current followers. So if we're looking at engaging a higher percentage of the followers we currently have, stories is really important for us to do this. You know, well, this is going to be a terrible stat, and you're going to be like, ugh, this is awful, but it's real, and I'm being real with you. For instance, is that on average, someone who posts to their Facebook business page is going to reach 5.7% of their followers. So like, if you have 1,000 followers on your page, then if you reach 6 people, that is average. If you reach less than 6, that's below average. If you reach more than 6, that's above average. So like the fact that that's average, that's tough, right? Because we're trying to reach people because we want them to get to know us, to understand us, to like us, and then be able to purchase from us. And if we have things like posting on our business page that can only get 5.7% for us, that really limits our opportunity for that. So that's again why it's important to leverage stories, because stories are going to reach a higher percentage of our audience than we're going to have with our regular newsfeed posts. So they help us reach and engage more people by doing it. So in general, when doing stories, and I say this for Facebook stories, but in general, they have really cool functionality inside of stories where they have these stickers that you can add on. And they could be like a location sticker or a hashtag that you add in there, or it's a GIF in there. And the reason these are important, and I'm giving you like an abbreviated version of it, because usually this is like an hour plus long conversation, is that you have your own followers. Now, a location, you call your followers your audience. Locations have their own audiences. Hashtags have their own audiences. So when you use a location, you could be tapping into that location's audience. That means that based off of people and their experience and how they're using these platforms, Facebook might identify someone as really loving content from the location Pioneer Valley or the location Northampton. So you will post something and they're not essentially your follower, but because they engage with that location, now your content has popped up in their newsfeed for the first time, or more than they would have because they're already a follower of yours, and then they also engage a lot with that location. So that's why it's important using these things like stickers, whether it's location or mention or hashtags, because they all create new audience avenues for us to tap into. They expand beyond our current audience. So Instagram stories, Facebook stories, very similar. Instagram stories have more capabilities than Facebook stories do, for sure. And with Instagram stories, you can do cool things, like you can save them and turn them into highlight reels. And you can even share your Instagram story right over to your Facebook story as well. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with stories, and even use things to, again, reach new people or engage people in a different way with polls or questions, or you can even have countdown timers, or even as a nonprofit, if there are any nonprofits here or watching the recording in here, you can use the donation sticker to pull in your nonprofit and then get some new donation revenue and avenues that you weren't able to tap into before. And also, just so you know, you can do that in regular newsfeed posts too. You can add fundraiser and you can add your own business if you're a nonprofit to regular newsfeed posts. So, and then other platforms are starting to get into it. Now, I'm not saying that YouTube stories and you'll have the slide deck for this because this is something that's like new. And so like YouTube stories or LinkedIn stories, they're not performing well yet. They're new and up and coming tools. People, when these different social media platforms are trying to compete with other social media platforms to get people to be on theirs, they copy each other's ideas. Sometimes those ideas work, sometimes they don't work. So both YouTube and LinkedIn are in this process of, all right, we're going to introduce stories to see if it works. Maybe it will, maybe it's like, well, I'm only doing this because I'm using LinkedIn for like this B2B stuff. Like, I don't know why I'd want to see a story on it, or this doesn't feel natural for this platform. So it might work, it may not work, but I wanted to at least mention so you know, if you didn't, that these platforms also have story features. And for LinkedIn, that story feature, you have to access it through mobile. And in the future, they're saying that they're going to eventually have that as an ability on desktop. So if you're like, I've never seen it before, you even do stories, it's because you don't log into your mobile app to see that you can do that through mobile. All right, Instagram Reels is really, really, really important. Does anybody create Instagram Reels here? Has anybody watched an Instagram Reels? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Vince has. Jennifer. All right. So say, about a month ago, my wife, we're having a conversation. We have 2 dogs. They're both rescue dogs. And my wife is like, all right, we have to make sure that we don't over-treat our dogs. When I say over-treat, like, it's easy for us to be like, oh, like do another trick and you get a treat, or like this and get a treat for everything. So like over-treat our dogs, because if they gain too much weight, then it can hurt their longevity of their life. And I was like, oh, okay, like that, that's great. That's really great information for us. And yeah, we should make some actionable changes on it. Or like the next week, she's like, all right, when our dogs, they bark at, the mail person or someone as they walk by, like we need to like go over there quickly and we need to help like transition them out of that. And like, this is a time where it's okay to give them one treat kind of thing, so they don't develop these barking patterns. So I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I'm like, where do you get this stuff? And she's like, this guy who dances on TikTok and Reels, who's a veterinarian. And I'm like, what? You're getting it from a dancing veterinarian? That's where you're getting this information? And I'm like, I gotta see this dancing veterinarian. And so it didn't like completely meet my expectations of what I thought it was. It was like a popular song, and then like this person's like doing a dance to it, and then they'd have like these little titles that would pop up. It'd be like, only give your dog this many treats per day kind of thing, or here's 3 superfoods for your. So like, he's not even saying anything, he's just like dancing to this music, and these things are popping up on there. But I look at it, and that guy has like thousands and thousands and thousands of views on it. So the reason I say that is because platform like Instagram is really focusing on Reels. And again, it's authentic content, but the big reason when they're focusing on Reels is because, I'm sorry if I'm telling you this for the first time, but Instagram is owned by Facebook, and Facebook hates competition, and TikTok is competition. So they have upped Reels in their algorithm to incentivize creators to join the Instagram platform as opposed to TikTok. So what does that mean? I have brands who have less than 100 followers on their Instagram who are reaching 1,200 plus people who are watching their videos because I'm publishing them on Reels. So I see anywhere from 200 to 1,200% plus increase in what their normal reach would be. because of using Reels content. So it is important, is one of the things that you use. If you're on Instagram, it should be Reels. Now this is like a plug to myself for a second, is that if you're like, Reels, what kind of content can I make? Well, we have a free Reels strategy guide on our website, empoweredsocialmediaco.com. So anyways, it's a free resource. Again, it's to help out if you're like, because it can be intimidating. Like, you're like, I'm not going to be that person who dances to the video and I say stuff about like your home insurance and stuff. Like, that's just not me to do it. So like, what else I do, Jamie? So like, you'll have some ideas inside of there to do. What's important for us to know, and I have some different tips in here, is that it is, if you use Reels for the first time, it is 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or now it's up to 60 seconds for people. It's not 16-second video. It's not a 32-second video. If you try to do that, it won't let you publish it until you've fixed it to it's 15, 30, or 60 seconds. That's important because a lot of people are like, how come it's not letting me move forward? Like, what's happening? And they give you like trimming tools and stuff you can do. Or you can have like two videos together, and then you can just make sure that you can pull things from your camera roll. So you could essentially like create the video, like using your phone, you could edit it outside, and then you can go to Reels and like pull in the video from your camera roll into Reels. So the important thing using Reels is use the tools that they give you for it. Like add music to it, and you can pick the songs you want in it, add effects. So what we're seeing is that businesses that use those tools, use the stickers, that content ends up performing better than when they don't. And what I would say is because it shows Instagram that you're using and leveraging the tools on their platform, as opposed to someone who could be like, all right, I'm just going to create a video, then I'm going to upload that video to TikTok, then I'm going to upload it to Reels, like done. Like I get to do both. They're like, wait. Like we want you to create on our platform, not just create for both platforms. Because again, they want to pull people away. So when you use these tools, it benefits you and helps you reach more people by doing it. All right, so we're gonna blaze through this. These are gonna be really important things, photo editing stuff. So this is not like, all right, now you're done with this. You're now like deemed a professional photographer and professional image editor. Not by any means, but for someone who's limited on time, I want to give you some information on things that you can do quickly to make a big impact on your stuff. So it's important for us to know that brightness matters. Dark images perform poorly as opposed to brighter images. And then we have contrast. Contrast is the difference between light and dark. So brightness, contrast. We have saturation. This is the intensity of the colors that we have. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. So when would you brighten? Well, if things are dark, that could be a good, if it's dark, brighten it kind of thing for us. So it can be as simple as that. And we see that between here, and we can see there's heavy shadows that are happening right now. We see that as opposed to this. It's easier for someone to see what's happening, to be able to, again, create that connection, have that human element in it. So we add some brightness to it. If we get to the place where like it starts to wash it out and it's just like really, really white, like you went too far in doing it. So these are some like basic things to think about with it. I'm not gonna be like brightness at 80%. Like, you know, it's dependent on images for sure. But brightening so that people can see the details in the image is important for us. Then contrast. When would we want to create contrast? When something doesn't pop out, like it's just not different enough from the background. It kind of blends in. So we can use a contrast tool to really allow it to pull out. So now it's different and it stands out from the background as opposed to blending in with it. So whether you use your iPhone or you use your Android phone, they all come with these built-in tools where you can hit the edit on the image and they'll give you these opportunities so you can change the brightness, and like drag it up, or you can change the contrast and drag it up or drag it down. They give you these. So you don't need to have like a really cool photo editing app to do these things. You can do them right inside your phone as well. And then saturation. So this is again in this dull, where like nothing stands out, like it's really easy for us to scroll by it. And then boom, we add some saturation to it, and now it's drawing us in, pulling in our attention, making it more exciting, then have overall more energy to it as well. So those are the three things that I want you to think about. If you're like, all right, I have an image, and sometimes, you know, this is because we're not always the person taking the images. You know, we might be dependent on the other people who are saying the images, and we're like, oh, really? That's the image that you sent me? Like, I gotta do something to it. So those are the three things that you can do to it to improve it. Now, graphic design tips. Alignment is important for us to know, first off. So whether it's like a left alignment, where things are aligned to the left side of your image or your video, or things are aligned to the right side or the center, it's important for us to know that there is like psychology behind the alignment of things and how we present those materials to people. So for instance, if you have somebody, like let's say that you have an image and you're trying to create, all right, I got an image, somebody who's looking forward in that image, like, but I want to place some text on it. Where do I place that text? What it's saying is that depending on the positioning of the person in it, that's where it would line. So if I'm here and I'm looking forward, and things get lined up in the center. So if I'm doing words on top of it, or a call to action or a sticker or anything on top of it, it's lined in the center of it because that's where I'm looking. If I'm over here to the left, well, I don't know if it's right on your screen, but I have now this open space and I want to fill it with what I'm doing. If I'm turned here, then it can be filled where I'm looking at. So we're pulling things together when we're creating. Again, left side, it opens up the space on the right for us to add that text or any other details to it. If they're centered, everything stays in the center. Other side, right, looking left, we want to align things together. Because a lot of people don't realize this. And then they set up things where it's like awkward, one's on one and another's on, there's no balance between, and that's what we're looking for, balance in our visuals. So headline, let's say that we do add text to our image. We want one headline that we're using for it. Social media isn't the place for a brochure. So, you know, the flyer where it has like so many details, they're like, you really, like, you gotta take it with you. Like to take it, like there's no way like you're looking at that flyer, you're gonna take it all in. Like you take that flyer with you. That's not the place for social media. If there's too much information on an image, people are going to scroll past it, or people are going to start to be like, this is too much, I can't take it in. So when you're creating an image, it's really minimal that we're doing. If we have a headline, it really stands out. So it's bold, it can be high contrast. Or if you don't have contrast stuff, then could be brand color that you're pulling in. And short. We don't want this really super long thing that then becomes really small because it's like a paragraph in size. It's really short and to the point. If you do have something that you're adding on a sub headline, then you can make it smaller like this. Now, it's important for us to know that there's a whole thing when we even think about typography. This is like the type that you're using. Whether you're using a sans or a sans serif, they have different things that go along with them, or they're using an elegant font. If you're doing a all caps font, then in contrast, you could do an all lowercase font. If you're doing a bold font, in contrast, you can do a light font in here. You want to create these contrast opportunities. So it's not bold for the headline, bold for the sub headline, because it becomes like this one thing instead of this contrast that creates a connection between them. And then we have a one focal point, not a ton of different focal points throughout, and we're opening up with some white space in here. It's okay to have space in the image. We're not trying to fill the entire image because then it is cluttered. So give yourself some space. Do not pull things to the edges. Give yourself margins. Those are important as well for us. Because if we have something like this, we're like, you're like, get past this. I don't want to see this. I'm done. Or the one that has so much text on it, it's like, boom, everything. You're like, oh my God, I have so much anxiety by seeing this. Right now, I have anxiety by seeing it. I'm sure you do too. All right, so that was a lot of different stuff that we talked about today. I'm going to pull it back because I don't want to focus on that one instead of the thank you. But we discussed some really important types of content to post, whether it's live content or stories, you know, the behind why I'd want to do it, reaching more people, engaging a higher percent of our current followers, reaching, engaging, and creating more conversions based off of the algorithm with your video content and reels. It's important in general, outside of reels, is to have video content in your strategy. I have done research on it, and I've seen with the businesses that I've worked with that it accelerates the process by having video content. So I've talked about before that it's like 8+, I call them touch points, where they have to see your brand, to see your content, to see a logo, to get to know you 8 or more times before they can feel like they trust you enough to purchase your product. So when you're using video content, you shorten how many times it takes for them to see your content. So video content in general should be part of your strategy. If it's not already, it should be in the future, because that's what everything is moving towards. There still is a place for images, for sure. But if you have what the image like speaks 1,000 words, what is that? Image equals 1,000, like video is like 1,000,000. So it is where social media is moving. It is where people are moving to get content, because it's faster, it's easier for them, and they can absorb the content much more quickly with video content in general. So we discussed that. We discussed really quick image editing stuff with your brightness, with your contrast, with your saturation. And now you know some of these important things. The positioning of your objects in your content makes a big difference for how you're doing things around that main object. And to be able to have some of that contrast, whether it is a bold font to a light font where it's thin in here, is creating that contrast that pulls everything together in an aesthetically pleasing way for us. All right, this is, no one's asked questions so far. So this is your opportunity. If you have, where you're like, Jamie, my mind's gone already, like you've given me so much, like I don't need any more. So if you do have questions, please feel free right now is the time to ask them. All right, I'll do this. Jennifer, do you have any? Oh, Julie, you unmuted yourself. Do you have a question?
I muted myself. I've been observed. Yeah, so I do have a question, and I have to say I really learned a lot from you, especially regarding live videos. I mean, I was a little familiar with them, but not at all like I am now after your presentation. So thank you. I'm not an Instagram follower user frequently. Do reels have to be filmed live, or you also you can do it live or produce something and put it into reels? How does that work a little bit?
Yeah,
and
so
I'll
you
download
can,
your thing, by the way.
Yeah, so you can go in and you can record something like in your phone, and you can edit it in your phone, and then you go in the Reels app and then just add it. So it'll like open up like your camera roll, and then you can just click on your camera roll and then select the video that would go into Reels, or you can record it inside the app itself. So like Instagram Live is different than Reels. Instagram Live fits into your stories as
Okay.
opposed to like your Reels content. And then if you do Instagram Live and you do it for more than a minute, you can also share it on IGTV as well. And everything is shareable to your newsfeed too. So
Okay.
if I sometimes I give too much information. So I'm sorry if I
And
just
it
gave you-
is a lot of the content that you can manipulate on Instagram. Is there a way to do that on desktop, or do you have to kind of do a lot of it in your small device?
I mean, if you have like a video editing program on your desktop, then you can do it in there. There's not functionality yet at this point to be able to, on the desktop, create Reels content. It's through mobile right now, but they have added functionality like you can create and schedule stories now on desktop or regular posts on desktop. And there's a free tool that you should write down. It's called Facebook Business Suite. And if you're not using it, you should learn more about it. It's connected. You can, well, if your Facebook and Instagram are connected as business accounts, you can create and schedule Facebook, Instagram posts, Facebook and Instagram stories. You can schedule them to post ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. I guess, you know, the fact that you have to do a lot of it still in your phone will help keep it authentic, because it won't be so curated by those of us who, you know, want to like fix everything on a desktop before it goes out to the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Jennifer, do you have any questions? Doesn't know.
I don't, but I thought it was helpful mentioning advertising that you're going live. I never thought that. I just thought if you're, I don't know, out doing something like, wow, this is a great time to do a live video, but I appreciate sort of thinking in advance and getting it out there, and it does make sense. Like that's how you're going to attract folks, is by giving it a mention in advance.
Yeah, and then not like you could also use that as part of your strategy. Like, oh my God, this is a great live opportunity. You could do it on the fly, for sure. But it's better to think about it, you know, strategically first before. All right, I got 30 seconds left. Any last? Got one more question. Jack or Elena, do you have a question? No, Jack.
I got pulled away for the image editing portion. Can you just summarize really quick what the hot tips were for that?
Yeah, so you also, I mean, you'll have the recording for it, and then you also have the slide deck for this as well. But the image editing just got into using the contrast feature, brightness feature, and then also got into using the